Hello everyone, this is a new year, it's 2024, and this was actually a video idea that I always had, but I never actually did it. Addison the other day was like, why don't you do a video like this? And I thought after, let's say, it's been 3 to 4 years since I've had cats, my very first cat, and then about 2 years since I've done professional cat sitting. I think I'm an expert at this point when it comes to cats because I've been to other people's places. I have a literal cat oasis playground, and I'm constantly thinking about how do I revamp the place? How do I make my life easier? So this whole video is on what are the things that, let's say budget aside, that you need. But I'm also going to provide some like very budget friendly alternatives to them as well. And if you are into cat things, you might already kind of know what I'm going to be talking about because this is something that's been like on social media all over, and I'm actually going to just start there. Litter boxes. The one thing I would actually like is a cat litter robot. I have one myself. I have the Litter Robot 3 Connect. What I wish I had was the Litter Robot 4, but I literally just bought this one like 2 years ago, and I don't feel like I should spend money on a fourth one when the third one kind of works okay. It does work, okay? It's just not, it just like Litter Robot 4 literally solves all the issues I have with Litter Robot 3, but Litter Robot 3 still solves a lot of issues that I have in general. So as you may know, I have 3 cats of my own, but I also do boarding on the side as well. So I can have additional cats of like up to 1 to even as many as like 8. It depends on how many cats per household. I only have like max 2 to 3 households per time. So I'm not actually going to have like 8 separate households together. They're really all on like if they have like that. When I said that there were like 8 max, there were really like a household that had 3 cats. So immediately we have like 6 cats just from that alone. And then we knew based off of that like how many cats actually do well with our cats, and we can introduce them to our cats as well almost immediately when they come with us. Naturally, because of that, poop is a huge issue. The only thing that I can't really figure out is the pee smell. But for poop specifically, easy, because for poop, we have a Litter Robot 3, and I would say if you want it to be automatic, you don't want to deal with issues at all when it comes to litter box. Litter Robot is great. My only thing is that, yes, it does help with not scooping that often, but if you have clumping litter, that's where it ends up like filling up so fast, because all the pee clumps can be like, at least like for Sora, his pee clumps are huge because he's a boy. And I think, honestly, I don't know, but I feel like it doesn't matter between male or female, but some cats just pee a lot more, like their clumps are just a lot bigger. I've just noticed like more male cats tend to have bigger pee clumps. But we did have like one female cat before that had like huge pee clumps too, so I don't know where that comes from. But because if you have clumping litter, those pee clumps add up so quickly that the waste bin on the bottom just ends up being so quickly filled up. And then there was one time that when I was in my old apartment, I was doing this manually. And back then I used to have pretty litter, and I was like, I'm always experimenting with different litters. In this case, it was a clumping litter. And with this clumping litter, I was like, wow, a whole day, one full day, and I already have a gigantic plastic bag of clumping litter that have like pee clumps and poop. And I'm like, how can I possibly do this? So I actually ended up getting non-clumping litter. At first, it started off with pretty litter. I liked pretty litter because it tells me the color that the pH is like, really, but honestly, I ended up leaving the pretty litter because it was just like really, it tracks a lot. It's like so super tiny that it tracks a lot when they kick. And this is when I had top entry litter boxes. Okay, so this is now like I'm introducing like a whole category here, litter in general. Okay, this will be the category. I would say Litter Robot you should get. The most recent one, actually, the Litter Robot 4 is even bigger, so the bigger cats should not have an issue. I've had bigger cats use the Litter Robot. I still always recommend to have a manual litter box, especially a low entry, the ones where you just walk right up, versus the top entry. We've had a cat, it was actually my first foster cat that literally used the top entry for the first time and used it like a toilet. So it was literally standing on the top and it was pooping into the hole as opposed to like going into the hole and then pooping in there and going back up. So that, I mean, I guess that helped out with in terms of like making sure there's no like litter that was being tracked, but it still smelled because it wasn't covered, and usually cats cover it. Sometimes not all cats cover it, But when it comes to that, I would say that like the litter robot's great. If you can't do a litter robot, do a top entry litter box. But you do need to make sure that your cat gets used to it. So I would have your low entry or your normal litter box and a top entry. You would literally pick up your cat, go on top of the litter box, put them into the litter box. We've had in our boarding room, which is our bedroom, we only have a low entry one because we don't want to risk it at all. We have in our living room and hallway as well, we always have a low entry and a litter robot because we don't know how many cats would get spooked by the litter robot. They almost always go to their little litter boxes like low entry, but we've actually recently moved into a new litter box for that hallway where there's a top entry and a side entry. So that way they can kick it in and they can also go up, and then it will also help that way. So when it comes to litter, I personally, because I have a lot of cats, or in general we have a lot of cats here, we use non-clumping litter, which means that the pee just essentially sits there and it kind of gets like, it doesn't get all clumpy, it doesn't clump, but it does get saturated and it doesn't leave. So you'd have to kind of like sift it around. You do scoop up the poop there. So it's kind of similar to pretty litter where it just basically soaks up the pee and soaks up the moisture, and then you scoop up the poop itself. So it's a lot less that's going into waste. So a lot of times for this, because of that, it depends on the cats that you have. Your pee gets really saturated and it smells. So you have to like stir it to make sure that the litter is fresh. And when you stir it, that's also the issue I'm still trying to figure out. I actually have another Chewy box that's come. I've experimented with almost every single type of litter. And I just know clumping litter will not work for me because that means like every single day I'll have a gigantic trash bag of clumps because some cats out there just pee a lot, and my boy is one of them. And so I use non-clumping litter. The one I'm using right now is Tidy Cats. But I do have a few that I'm trying out after this. Every single auto ship I have on Chewy, it's like a different litter. So I'm still trying to figure out one that has very low dust, because each time I'm scooping or stirring, it gets all dusty. And I don't think there's a single one that actually means not dusty. All the ones that, like, whenever we go for drop-in visits, they're clumping litter, which doesn't work for us. So I know a lot of clumping litter work well. But I also know whenever I scoop for one cat there, it's also like a plastic bag as well. I'm just like, that's a lot of poop for just one cat or two cats. But for us, we have like a lot of cats, so it doesn't work for us. So maybe for them, I would say the best litter I've seen for those is the Arm & Hammer and the Dr. Elsey Ultra Clumping Litter, or the Arm & Hammer. Those work really well. I would say for my drop-in clients where they only have like one or two cats. If you have multiple cats, that's where it could be an issue. Non-clumping litter would be your best bet for that. And you do have to make sure you stir the litter so it doesn't get too saturated so quickly. Otherwise, it could just kind of get stuck on the bottom. You can use litter liners. We have used litter liners specifically for certain ones. But, oh my god, so there's always an issue. But we have cats that like to scratch the side of the litter box as they use it. So now it's kind of like you just made a hole in the liner, and now when we pull it out, the litter still comes out. So we stopped doing that as well. However, we actually really like this current litter box that we have right now. It has like a tarp-like liner that is basically reusable. That's not easily scratched because it's a tarp-like liner. So I'm starting to go like, oh, I kind of like this litter box. It's nice because it has a top entry. It's meant to be like a side entry or top entry, not both the way that we're doing it. And the tarp liner is really good too because it's so easy to clean. Like I literally just dump the litter into a plastic bag and then I wash it in my sink and then I put it back in. Of course, like I dry it and I put it upside down, but the tarp makes it so much better than like a plastic liner where it easily gets ripped. So I personally really like it. I'm going to link all these items, by the way, down below. But personally for me, if you were like a brand new cat owner, I would say the litter robot is good after your first few years with cats. The normal thing, what I would say is like, always start with a low entry. Always start with a low entry. And I do have a few recommendations. I'll list this down below as well, because they have like high walls but not too high. Like we've had kittens before where the high walls were a little bit too high And if you start off with a kitten, you may want to go lower, but then you definitely want to upgrade to like a higher wall because the kittens can go over that as well. And then once they do, the litter will easily like stay in, because if you have the low ones, then easily the litter goes out and it's like, all right. And then after that, you can go to the slightly higher one. And then after that, when you want to transition to a top entry, have your existing low entry one as well as your top entry one. Put them in there. You don't want to have any accidents, so you have both of them at the same time. Eventually, they'll learn to go inside. Some cats don't like to be enclosed. Some cat, I've noticed like a lot of our cats are okay with it actually, to be honest, but some cats don't like to be like enclosed, and then you see that there's only one opening. So I always have multiple types of litter boxes anyways, for me personally, because I just don't want to risk it with the types of cats that are coming into our place. But for me, if I had to, I would stick with just top entry litter boxes and stick with just non-clumping litter. And for the non-clumping litter specifically, I'll also list down below tidy cats. The only thing is like they're not entirely dust free, and you do have to make sure you like stir the litter often to make sure that it doesn't get all saturated and smelly. And then also liners are really good too, but specifically I would recommend the litter box down below because it comes with that tarp liner. And I have that because I personally like it with the liner, and it's very sturdy. It's really big, so like the big cats won't be an issue in those. It is expensive though, so that's why I would say start with the low entry, make sure they can use it, and then go off with this kind of litter box, because that way you know for sure it'll be used. All right, so one thing that I actually forgot to add in as I'm literally editing this, I'm like, my timeline's right over here, is I forgot to talk about the litter genie. And this actually is really useful for multi-cat households where you have many cats and you don't want to constantly go to the garbage and throw it out. Let's say, for example, you have to go to the refuse room every single day, or you have to actually go outside and drop it off. It's not a lazy, okay, yeah, it is a lazy thing. But it's also like you're kind of maximizing your time by just basically putting it all in one area. I will say if you have multiple cats and use clumping litter, it does go really, really fast. Like maybe like actually we had one client where we had 3 cats and they used clumping litter and they had a litter genie. Within just 3 days, I had to just change it out. For me, however, with all of our boarding cats and non-clumping litter, it actually was like, I would probably say close to 1 to 2 months. We actually have 2 versions. Just to kind of explain how it works is that it is essentially a chamber that is vacuum sealed, and it has like a giant tube of plastic bag essentially. And what you do is like each time you cut it and then you tie it and that tie up the next one. So essentially that becomes the new plastic bag. When that one's done, you again cut it, tie that one up, and it's like it looks like a Tootsie Roll with like 2 ties at the end. You throw that out and then you do the next one. It's like a giant tube of plastic. The new one, however, it actually comes already done, like where it kind of looks like one of those grocery store plastic bags where they have the little serration, the little dotted line that you just cut off. So it's already pre-cut for you, and it's actually so much easier. You just kind of, you cut it. There's actually no cutting mechanism this time. You essentially just get it, you tie it, and then you rip it off and throw it out instead of like tying the back and tying the front. So I personally like this a lot easier because I don't have to try to tie it when it's all like nasty and everything. But I would highly recommend the litter genie. I personally like it because we have 2. We have one in the bedroom for a lot of our boarding clients, and then we have one in the living room / office for our own cats and other clients as well. And other clients that we've had, like we always ask like, where's your poop bags? Where do you put it? Some people put it in their garbage bag, some people put it in the refuse room, and you just run, it's just like a lot of plastic, you know. That's why I think it's really wasteful to have plastic bags. Some clients we've had use diaper bags or like doggy poopy bags, and then they just throw it out every single day. But it is very wasteful to have like one dedicated plastic bag per day. Meanwhile, this is like one gigantic one, and like I said, it's vacuum sealed, so as long as you seal it properly, there's nothing going in and out. So it's pretty cool because you would think there's a lot of bugs that are going to be flying in there, but you don't see anything. So I highly recommend the litter genie. It is so cheap compared to like buying these little poop bags over time. You do have to buy like the little canister that is like essentially like a litter bag refill, but like I say, when I use non-clumping litter, I actually, my very first litter genie, I think it was like 1.5 years ago since I first got my, 2 years ago since I got my first litter genie. I'm still working on the same refill. I have not refilled it at all. So if you use non-clumping litter, you will definitely be able to get this through really far. And so far, it has been really good to me. So, all right, post-production, Christine is out. And so that's what I would say. In terms of toys, I feel like there's so many out there, but the ones I definitely know work really well are the rods. And personally, you'll see that like I actually have a lot of videos with clients where we literally do not have anything at the end. It's literally just string because they just like, cats have ripped it up, but they all just like it anyways because it's moving and it's a rod. So we have a rod that extends out, and it's not like one rod, it's like a rod that kind of like almost like a telescoping pole, and it has like a little thing to hang your worm or your toy. We don't even have that anymore. We do have them, but we don't use that anymore because we know it's like, oh, the string's okay anyways. So we use that to kind of like move it around. They all love it. And then there's also like, if you want like a motorized toy, I would say that the one where we still have it, but honestly, every time we have it out, it's just constantly used so often that the battery runs out, or it's like so jammed because the cats love it that much. If you have a cat that loves to go after your feet when you sleep, so basically you're under the blankets and they're like your feet moving and then they kind of attack it, this is perfect. So this is the kind of toy that there's like it's like a blue sheet and there's something that goes under it with a little, it looks like a little bushy tail almost with a little string. So best of both worlds, they always go for it. It's pretty much the same as like if you had a rod and you like put it under a rug or you put it under a blanket. It's like you're basically like trying to make them do some sneaking, some hiking, some hunting. I really like that because it helps you to get rid of energy. If you have a kitten or a high energy cat and you're trying to work and they just keep bothering you, you just turn that on. The only thing is like it dies eventually, or that the actual like motor dies eventually, so you do need to buy multiple. So, but it does help a lot. Or you just get another cat, which is what we ended up doing. Like they play with each other or they end up tying each other out. We're all good. So honestly, for our cats, we don't really play with them that often anymore because they play with each other. And by the time that we're with them, they're just like, all they want to do is just cuddle and sleep with us. And then we also have boarding cats that also kind of chase and play with them as well. So it's like, if I were to chase them around, they're going to be tired and they're not going to do that. We do play a little bit here and there for our boy Sora because he just loves to play no matter what. Dawn and Charlotte don't really play because they get tired easily. They're older. They're also women. They're females. But Sora, like, always in the mood to play. So he always, like, we play with him and then he just, like, instantly has his, like, gears on to play. When it comes to treats, I think everyone who's a cat owner would love the Churus. Well, not every cat owner. All the cats love the Churus. But not all cats love Churus. I've, like, out of all of the cats we've had with us, only 2 of them have not liked it. I don't know why. Maybe it's the flavor that we gave them. There's many flavors. I would recommend these 2 types. There's the Churus that are Japanese, and then there's the Squeeze Up. That's it. The Delectables Squeeze Up. That's actually where we started out with, and then eventually I found out about Churus, and now I do both. They both all like it. They all like both of them. So honestly, I don't really see a big difference. But with Delectables, I easily can find it on Chewy or Amazon. Churus, I think you can only find it on Amazon, but to be honest, like both of them are great. So honestly, that's all I can really say. I'm not going to talk about cat food because it really does depend on your cat's life stage and your cat's like life weight loss goals or health. But particularly for me, I'm not going to say to use it, but do your due diligence as to what you think. Our cats use Wellness Core for wet food, and they use the Hills Science Diet for the dry food. And our cats do eat different food. Like, for example, Charlotte, she's a senior cat now. She's on a senior cat diet. And our 2 other cats, Dawn and Sora, they're on the perfect weight. So I just want Sora to lose a little bit weight. And I was like, why not? If it's like perfect weight, it's fine if Dawn has it right because it's not like losing weight. It's just perfect weight. And the other thing, this is the one that usually gets everyone like so surprised that we have, is these machines. And I'm so happy that they're finally back on Amazon. They were on Amazon, then they went off Amazon, and then they are back on Amazon. I think it's during the pandemic they like ran out of parts or something happened. These machines are game changer, because if you have multiple cats, or you have cats or dogs, and you need to be very specific about what they eat and what they can't eat, and portion sizes, this is literally perfect for dry foods only. When it comes to this particularly, I would say you need to have them collar trained. This is the only thing. There's other feeders out there that are like microchips, but this is collars. So you do have to make sure your cats are used to collars. We got them started since the very beginning. And Charlotte, like when we first got her as a foster cat, we did get her used to collars. She got used to them. They all like collars. I don't think they like collars, but they like it because at least it opens food for them. But their collars have like a little RFID tag. They go close to it, it opens their machine. They go close to another cat's machine, it closes on them if someone was using it. So we have the default to be closed, so that way if the right cat comes up, it will open, as opposed to it will be open, and if the wrong cat, it closes. So our default is closed. And that's what ends up happening is that, like, let's say it's closed, and then one of the right cats go up, they eat, and then Sora comes along, who's always Sora. He walks by and is like trying to steal the food. It closes because it senses his tag. I really like this machine because it portion controls and it prevents stealing. Sora is a big boy. He's like 13 pounds right now. He's a big boy. And our girls are like 8 to 9 pounds. And naturally, he eats a little bit more, but he also eats a lot more. So to prevent him to eat a lot more, we actually have this machine to prevent him from eating too much. So the machines allow me to calibrate what portion size to spread out. And I actually don't have like 2 meals a day. I did it 4 meals a day, and I do it in increments of 6 hours. So 8 a.m., 2 p.m., 8 p.m., 2 a.m. So that way they always have food, and it's always going to be in a consistent period of time, no matter what, if I'm home or not. I like this because then if they are very hungry in the middle of the day or in the middle of the night and I'm not awake for it, then I can't do it. But at least this machine gets them for the food. So what I do is actually I have these tags set up, and then they go to the food. It's portion controlled already. Sometimes it's good for me to see, like, I look at their food, I'm like, okay, that looks pretty full, which means they haven't been eating their daily intake. And usually this means that they either have been like in a different room sleeping and they don't really want to eat, or in general they're just like that. Usually Charlotte and Dawn's food always like fills up really quickly because they don't eat all the food at once. So what I do is like I scoop out the food and put it back into the tray once in a while. It is in an airtight container, so I know for sure like other animals and pests won't get in there. It should be fine. It's all dry food too. And then wet food, I just give them like once in a while in a little bowl, and usually it's only Dawn that eats a little bit. She like nibbles on it because she's a grazer, and the Sora like eats all of it. So I just give it once in a while, and the dry food is really enough, to be honest. Charlotte, like, I'm still trying to figure out what kind of wet food she can do. She does not like wet food, but I gotta be patient. So that machine is definitely the best if you have multiple cats and you want to make sure they don't steal food. This is good because I've also seen people where they have just the one machine and it's for cats, and they have dogs, so they don't want the dogs to eat the cat food if they are grazer or whatever, but they have the dogs wear the tag, and then the dogs try to go nearby, it closes on them. So you don't need to have a machine for every single cat. We just happen to do that. It's easier that way. We do have a machine this way where like they can have different food too, and they won't be eating different food. So if you have a kitten or an adult cat, or a senior cat and an adult cat, you can have it where they still eat different food. Actually, like even cats that have like special needs or health issues that they have separate food, this is also perfect for them. But this is really good in my opinion because it prevents stealing. It's like portion control. You know for sure like what they're eating and what they're not eating. And what I do, however, in the holidays or when I go on vacation is I always make the default to be open, because if the collar comes off, and I do have breakaway collars, so they do come off once in a while if they go into a little tussle where they get caught in something, it comes off and then they can't eat. So I make it in the holiday times when I'm not home, I actually turn on open, so it only closes when the wrong cat comes by. In my case, I'm just like, okay, if the wrong cat comes by and eats their food, I know at least for Sora and if it's Sora, he's going to eat. But if it's Dawn and Charlotte, I know that they're not going to finish, so at least like, oh, what's more, like Sora's gonna eat a little bit more, okay, cool, it's fine, but at least he'll be fed. Versus like if Dawn and Charlotte did it, they still are fed, so it's okay in my opinion. So we have like a whole list of things that we do before we go on vacation that we definitely have it all proofed out. We have so many cameras. I'll link them down below. I like these cameras because they have night vision. You can record. My particular favorite is, and I would use this particular one in like a very critical area that your cats like to be in the most. We have it directly in our living room that's facing every single area. What I like about it is it's the Furbo Cat Camera. It moves, so you can move it compared to like a stationary camera like some of the ones that I have. It has night vision. There's cloud recording, and specifically I do pay for the Furbo Nanny, but I think it's good because of like the boarding cats that I have and also my own cats. And it basically tells you when a cat meows, when a cat is crying, when a cat's destroying, when a cat's doing a selfie, when they're playing, all that kind of stuff. It tells you this because they are studying cats. It's cat AI essentially that tells you, or tells the system to tell you that like this, your cat's doing this. It also has a little like toy that comes out. There's like a little feather toy, so if they want to play, if you like move your camera from side to side, it will kind of like make them come up and like, ooh, get their attention. It also shoots at treats, so I like that for that exact reason. It does a nice daily summary as well, so it's really cool to be able to like not be able to watch all the videos, but they send you like a little quick summary. It's like 1 minute or so for every single day if you have it plugged in for every day. There's like a little daily summary that shows you everything that happened basically in sped up form. I really like this particular camera. If you needed to get one camera, get this camera, the Furbo Cat Camera. I don't think there's a referral, but if there is, I will link it down below in the description or in the comments. All the comments, I'm also going to pin this in the comments as well, all the things I'm recommending. So, to be honest, like, that's all I really recommend. There's a lot of things, but really the litter robot, top entry or side entry litter box, and then the specific litters as well, which is great depending on your usage. I hate the wood chips, the paper litter, the ones that essentially crumble when they pee. They don't do anything. They also are so bad in cleaning. Like technically when it comes to a lot of these, people are using it as like a scoop, but I know like some of them are supposed to be sifting litters and no one really cares about it. And like, that's not the right litter box. We have a client that gave us like this kind of like pellet form litter and it's supposed to be in the sifting box, but they don't do it. They give us a scoop and they're like, try your best to scoop it. I'm like, yeah, but it's like literally just going through my scoop. And then I would also recommend, if you do get a scoop, get a metal scoop, because we've had so many plastic scoops that literally either break or the litter is just so in there that it's like so weak that the litter scooper ends up like literally bending. So use a metal one. The ones I'm gonna list is down below. I have like pretty much everything is tried and true. Like tested through the ringer with a lot of cats, with owners. I know like what works and what doesn't work well, what ends up being all nasty in the end. So all my recommendations are down below. I would say as your starter kit, get your stainless steel low entry litter box, and I will recommend it down below. I got it from Chewy. And then moving forward, when you move on to top entry, use the Modkat one with the tarp liner if you can afford it. And then if you can go further, get the Litter Robot 4, not the 3, the 4. And I would also recommend that as well, because I don't have the Litter Robot 4, just to be completely honest. I have the Litter Robot 3, but from everyone I know that has the Litter Robot 4 and the clients that I have, it solves all the issues I have with Litter Robot 3, okay? And I would say use non-clumping litter. It says that clumping litter is great for Litter Robot and it's preferable, but I've used non-clumping, and you have to really, it depends on the clumping litter too, because we've had pretty litter where it just clumps, so it's like saturated, so essentially the little crystals stick together and it becomes a clump. I'm like, that basically defeats the purpose of a non-clumping litter. So the ones that I've used before is like the Tidy Cats and the Fresh Step one. They don't clump like that, and it still works perfectly fine in a litter robot as well as in our normal litter boxes. So litter boxes particularly, I would recommend those. And then when it comes to food machines, if you have multiple cats or multiple pets and portion sizes and stealers, the one I linked down below is better. There are microchip ones, which are really good for wet food, particularly because I've had a lot of clients that have microchip feeders where one particular cat is very, very aggressive with their food and the other does not and just kind of grazes. They have that one cat eat from their own bowl or plate themselves, and then they have the one that grazes in a microchip feeder. So that way the wrong cat can't eat it, but the right cat could still eat it over time. So I would also recommend that as well. There is even one where they have a double split as well. So if you have one that's dry food and one that's wet food, I'll link that below. Water fountains. I do know that there's like one that's better, one that's worse. We had a cat that breaks apart water fountains. And this was the only one that was essentially indestructible. Like, it was hard for even us to break it apart, but it's hard for the cats to break it apart. So the plastic one, it's plastic. I know I don't like plastic ones, but this was the only one that was indestructible. I'll link below. It's great because it has like, it's fresh. It's got a filter. It's got a little spout as well. And then in terms of stainless steel, there's another one that I particularly like, and I'll link that below. That one makes it easier to clean. It's not that loud, and there's always a lot of water in it. And even if, like, this is what I always think about is like, if there's no electricity, what would happen? There's still like a section of water that's pooling, and I always like make sure that all the water fountains we have that. So in case that they're running low on water, they still have that little area that, like, if the motor or the pump is not working, they still have the little area of water. That's what I would recommend for water. For food, like I say, I can't really make recommendations on there. I do use Hill Science Diet and Wellness Core. And then when it comes to toys, I already told you the rods, you can't go wrong with the rods, but you have to make sure you store them so they don't accidentally eat them. Because we've had cats that literally eat the worms or the ends, like feathers. Like, you shouldn't have them eat that. You should hide it. But if you did have it out, you could have the rod out with the string out, but nothing on there. And then also there's like the automatic toys as well that I recommend. We have this tunnel that is a huge hit with certain people. So, I mean, oh my God, not people, certain cats. It's the donut one. We've only had 2 cats that actually go in it, but everyone loves the normal tunnel. So I would also link that down below. It's like a donut with you can sleep on top of it. You can go inside, you could peek out of it. I love it. It's so cute. It does take a lot of space though, so that's the one downside. And I will say that if you want the long tunnel, the good thing is that at least it could be collapsed and folded up if you don't need it. But I love it because the cats love to play through it, run through it, peek through it, play through it. You put the toy in it, they'll run through it, all that kind of stuff. Very versatile. And it's also easy to collapse compared to the donut shaped one. Yeah, honestly, that's all I really have. I would say I don't really use a cat carrier like the rectangular ones that everyone has, but I do use a cat stroller or a cat backpack. I'll link those down below as well. The cat backpack I have, I always put them on the front, so I have them leashed and harnessed, which, by the way, I recommend them to be harness trained from the very beginning. As long as, like, they don't like it, but get them harness trained, put them in the harness, and then give them treats. I know that they're going to be like, oh my God, they're going to cry, they're going to act like they're flopping and that they don't know how to move. They will learn how to move eventually. All our cats have learned how to move eventually. They even walk down the aisle with us in a harness and a dress and tucks and all that kind of stuff. You put them in the harness, and I'm going to link the one down below that I recommend because it's very secure compared to the ones I've seen. And then also there's like the ones that are really stringy. Those I don't recommend. They can easily get lost. I would get the one that's like a true harness, and then you get a leash. You get those, and then after that, you get used to them to get into those. So you like give them treats every time they're on it. And then when they're using it, every time they're in a backpack, you can literally leash them into the backpack, open the top, and then you can walk around and literally like pet them like this and give them treats as you go to the vet. I personally like it this much better because they get to see the world. They are not like being slung side by side like this. They're instead in front of you, seeing the world the way you see things. And I think it's a lot better than to see them on the side and you can't really touch them without... and it's just like, personally, I find the backpack a little bit better because they have the side entry, they have the top entry, and then the front entry. So for me particularly, get the backpack. Do not get the bubble backpack. They overheat like crazy. We've had a client that had those, and it was like not even summertime, it was like spring or fall time, and he was panting when we were going back to their place. Panting. And it was just not good at all because like the plastic just kind of is like a heat bubble. It's like an air bubble there. If you get the ones with the ventilation, a lot better. I will say the strollers are my best pick. They just take a lot of space. So if you have the space, get the strollers. I have the double-decker ones. They easily collapse. I like the pink one in the way that you can remove it as like a little stroller, like a carrier, and collapse it. And it's very thin. But the thing is, like, the little carrier parts is like metal rods in there, so it's still heavy. It's also not as durable in my opinion, but our cats are fine. It's usually this bigger green one I like a lot because it's so durable. I'm not worried about going through every single crack or rock on the floor. The pink one I'm a little bit more worried about because it's a little bit more fragile. But the green one I usually put Sora in, but if we were to go out, you could technically put all 3 of them in there. So when we go to like the vet or something like that, we actually sometimes put, we don't put both of them in the strollers. We actually just use one stroller. In this case, like, we would have 1 cat on our carrier and then we would put 2 cats in that stroller. So it's usually going to be that way. So that way it's like not too bad to bring all 3 of them to the vet at the same time. But I love the stroller because you're not like straining your shoulders or straining your back or your stomach or your abs or anything like that, because sometimes cats can be heavy, and when you have 3 cats it gets heavy. A stroller is great for that reason, but my only issue with the stroller is that it's not easy to take them in and out of a car, which I like better with the pink one because you can do that and clip them in. So give or take, there are carriers out there. I don't think a lot of people have 3 cats like me, but if you're watching this video, maybe your goal is to have 3 cats or that you already have 3 cats. But here are my recommendations. See all my links down below. Some of them are affiliate links, and some of them, all of them, you don't pay extra for by clicking on these links, and you'll be directly helping all the cats that go through my doors and me as well. So thank you so much. Hopefully this video is helpful. I know I rambled a lot. I literally did not prepare for this video because I just constantly have recommendations, and like I was treating it basically like if you were a brand new cat owner, what would I recommend you to get? And that's what I recommend. Like, go check in the links. If you don't watch the videos, at least go check out the links and see what you think. All right, if you have any recommendations yourself, link them down below in the comments. I'm curious myself. Do you use a cat stroller? Do you use a cat backpack or a cat carrier? Do you have special toys that you use, or tunnels or anything like that? Cameras as well. All of these I feel like are very, I will have to admit, they're expensive. But when if you have the one good one, you don't have to buy more. That's the way I see things. It's like if you have very bad ones, you're gonna probably buy more. You're gonna have to buy replacements. This one you don't have to. So in my case, like, I still want the Little Robot 4. If you're thinking between the Little Robot 3 or 4, get the 4. It's a little bit expensive, but I think it's worth it. So that's what I would say. And thank you everyone for watching, and see you guys next time. Definitely comment down below what you think is your favorite, and also if you have your favorites to share, because I'm always open for new cool things as well. Bye.